Welcome back, everybody, to a segment that has been a long time, I guess, not in the making per se, but a long time coming. We should have gotten to this segment a very long time ago and had intentions of recording so many different things over the course of time, and that's Dino Score, the music of the Jurassic Park franchise. And I am here with Caleb Burnett. How you doing, Caleb?
Woo! I am great. I'm great. Good to be here.
There is a lot to talk about, and this is kind of one of the things that, I know we wanted to do eventually was to talk about, what's in store for the future of the Jurassic franchise, something like Jurassic World Dominion, which is, now coming out June 2022, and we are, as of this recording, we're a few weeks post getting some of the first, glimpses at the score for Jurassic World Dominion. So we did want to talk about that today. So
totally, we can look at score sheets and say, "Oh, this is in 4/4." You know what else is in 4/4? do things like that, maybe. I don't know.
Look, we're gonna have to expand upon things and maybe let people know some of these terms and musical jargon, I guess, because when you're looking at sheet music or stuff like that, sometimes it's kind of hard. I play music and I have no clue how to read music, really. That's a fault.
Yeah,
I've always
I'm
wanted
a musician,
to,
and I sometimes I have no idea what I'm doing either, so it's okay. No, I mean we can explain in simple terms some musical stuff, and I mean a lot of those pictures and teases and stuff that have been shared are specifically you can't really tell what's on the page too much, which is fine. So yeah,
it's a completely different set of skills because typically when a set picture or something from behind the scenes of the film is shared, we're all looking for details. I remember when they released that picture of an InGen container or something like that, and it looked like it was part of an old facility. We're checking out the details on the ground, on the wall, the knickknacks and things that are all over the place, and we're just parsing out every possible detail. So that's a bit easier. This is a different kind of thing, where there's not much to gather from it. It's not I don't know, maybe you looked at it and played a few notes and thought, that sounds good. I like the way that he's going there. But there's much less for the... Yeah.
That first little score sheet that Giacchino shared, you could only see the bottom of the... Oh, there we go. The bottom of the big orchestra page, which is typically the string section. And so maybe TMI, but I was in bed when he tweeted that. And I immediately got up and came in here to my studio and sat down at my piano and tried to figure out sort of what was going on. And it's hard. That, I think we'll talk about that specific one probably, but that one there wasn't too much that you could take from it, but yeah, it's really interesting.
All right, so let's take a look here. Let's dive into some images here. So I've got up the first, I think this is the first thing, scoring at Jurassic World Dominion in London from my studio in LA with this week. Strange way to do it, but it's working great. We have Colin Trevorrow with boots on the ground in the UK watching the incredible London players do their thing. So I know this is one of those pictures where everybody's I think I can make out Sam Neill in a monitor in a blurry background back there, but there's really nothing that you can see in this image. I know
they were very careful about what was captured in the picture. I assure you. But I think this is the one that I got up and came in here and sat at the piano and saved the image and pulled it over and zoomed in as far as I could and tried to make out what the strings were playing, and it's nothing there's no themes or anything. I think it's just the strings are either supporting something else that's going on with some other instruments, or it's it's in between themes or something. But
yeah,
and that's on purpose. They didn't want to share anything too crazy, but
yeah. Following up that on their progress, actually, he says, we have a title for a track, and this is crazy.
I love it so much.
Alan for granted. How cool is that? We have no notes. Just a lot of blank space.
Silence. Yeah, I mean, and this picture, the Alan for granted picture, that's the top of the orchestral score sheet. So there could be something going on down at the bottom with the strings or something, and maybe we'll find out later. But this cue, I have a couple of composer friends who when something like this is on social media, I send them the picture, and it's like, look at this music, like, what do you think? Because we see things that each other misses at times on score sheets or whatever. And so my friend of mine, his name's Dallin, he pointed out something really interesting with this cue title, because a lot of people saw this title and they were like, oh, like something's gonna happen to Alan, or he's gonna die, or whatever. And I obviously hope that doesn't happen, but
of course,
my friend Dallin pointed out, he's like, no one ever listens to Alan. Like, he tries to share wisdom, like, please don't do this, or whatever it is, and people don't listen. And so that's really what this title, I think, is like. Wow. Alan is like saying, like, this is a bad idea, or like, why did you do this? And people don't listen. It's gonna happen again. So
I like that. And that is the type of conversation we need to have. It's like, where else would you get that kind of like insight? And that is amazing. Alan for granted. It's just everybody's taking him for granted and not, following up, on his advice, which it's so funny because that's what Jurassic Park was, right? Like, they brought out these scientists to tell them what they think about this place, and then every time they tried to tell them, nobody cared. Nobody listened. They just argued with them. They said, well, we brought you here, and like, you're gonna side with the blood-sucking lawyer? Like, it just every time. It's so funny how that works. So I hope, it would kind of be, typical. It would be thematically, accurate, I guess, for somebody to not listen to him still at this point. And that would be interesting. Yeah. Like who is not listening, you think? This is wild insight, but
that's what Jurassic Park 3 is about too. He's like,
yeah,
y'all, this is a bad idea. Don't land on this island, please. Like, and they don't listen. But
I like even further. He's on the plane. He's like, so everybody, if you look out this side, and it's like, guys, I'm trying to tell you that if there's Brachiosaurus over here, and nobody's listening to him.
No one. They don't care. That's gonna happen again. Like,
yeah,
seriously. But the 2M19A, that's a Q number, but it's also a real number as far as like where it is in the film. Mm-hmm. And so the low beginning number there in that title, like, could suggest that this is pretty early on in the film. Okay, but it could be, they could put it somewhere else, or it could be somewhere else. That's kind of hit or miss. But
yeah. Alan for granted. I think you guys are onto something there. So bravo to your friend for looking into that, because I didn't necessarily like think about the meaning all too much. But I love that. Do you think it has to do with maybe Ellie and Alan in a way, because maybe she took him for granted or something like that? I think that could be an interesting way to go.
I did not even think about that.
What does she say? She says something in Jurassic Park 3, you were always the best, or something along those lines, right?
I forget his name. I think his first name is John on Twitter, but he tweeted that clip today of, Ellie talking to Alan in the car before he drives off, and it just tugs at the heartstrings every time. But like, it does. Yeah, she says, you're still the best. I'm here if you ever need anything. Yeah, call me. And oh man, I hadn't even thought about that, how it could relate to Ellie. So marriages end every day. Sometimes it just doesn't work. So, and sometimes
Mark.
It's so that Ellie and Alan can get back together.
Oh gosh. Okay, that's the way it's gonna be. Let's move
Yeah.
on to the next picture here. This is day 4 that I have. I think that was the next one of Jurassic
Yep.
World Dominion scoring sessions, recording at Abbey Road in London, and monitoring from my studio in LA. So this is an interesting one. I mean, I've been looking because he actually utilized this figure, this little and Michael Giacchino is hugely into like tiki culture and stuff like that. So this is like absolutely like a tiki T-Rex, which I think is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So I've seen him use this thing in a lot of the pictures that I think we were seeing in videos or whatever. So I just wonder what that means. First off, I'm like, is this some sort of hint towards it being a T-Rex, track or anything like that? What do you think on the T-Rex? Do you think anything? Is it insightful or just something he had laying around?
To me, I mean, he's if you've ever seen like there's that picture of him with Kermit, and you can see the background of his studio a little bit. He's got
Yeah.
shelves like you and I do,
Yeah.
and he's got lots of toys and tiki stuff, and so I feel like to me this was just the tiki T-Rex. That's a fun term to say. The
I know.
tiki T-Rex
Tiki T-Rex.
was like
Trademark.
his companion for the scoring, like
Yeah.
just his buddy every day. Like the tiki T-Rex was overseeing the score to make sure it was right for a Jurassic film.
Yeah, it's like a little part of Jurassic, could finally be here with me, even though I couldn't be out there in London. I don't know what we can really get from this image. Tell me about this real quick, because on the side you see the little tabs, and I'm not sure. Are those? They look like time, the time of a track. I don't know, but and then we also have the notes and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a lot going on that orchestral score page,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't remember if I really zoomed in and tried to play any of that, but it seems like some pretty chaotic music going on.
Yeah.
So the Allen for granted cue was
Mm-hmm.
2M19A.
Yeah.
And so on the side of this score we're on 8M. So that means
a little bit farther in,
moved forward a little bit. Those are either cue markings, separate cues that we're recording, or they're different, spots in the score of the film that we want to like record as segments, or some variation of that.
Sure.
A score like this is gonna be thick. It's gonna be long, and it's a lot of music. So I mean, the Allen for granted cue might have been in a complete other scorebook, and now we're on day 4, so we're in the second scorebook, just so that they split it up so that it's not one giant thing.
We have day 6 of Jurassic World Dominion scoring sessions, long distance edition, LA to Abbey Road in London. Remote scoring is quite different experience, but it's working out perfectly so far. And is this 2 pictures? Yes, it's 2 pictures. You got some Zoom participants, and then the orchestra. I don't know what's up top
T-Rex.
there. Tiki T-Rex, of course. I was just looking around him. I forgot he was even there.
Yeah.
Tiki T-Rex.
The 116 at the top there, that's most likely a measure number, a bar number.
Okay.
So they're deep into a queue, let's say that.
So we have this also here. So this one says 9M67, it looks like, up top. So we're a little bit farther in. A little bit farther. And lots of notes. Anything of note for this one?
This is another one that I sort of sat down and tried to decipher. There's not any like decipherable themes in this page or anything, but on the left, under what looks like bar 98, you'll see under some of the notes, you'll see an FP, and that means forte piano in music language. And then right after the FP, there's a crescendo marking. That's smaller and then opens to be bigger. And then at the other end of that, there's a FF, a double F, which in music language means fortissimo, which means very loud.
Yeah.
So forte piano means you sort of start quiet and then swell into this really loud thing. And so, yeah, this is going to be some exciting music or some action music for sure. And then right after you get to the double F, the very loud, there's a rest, so it's silent for a second, and then back to FP again. So sort of quiet and then swelling into something loud again. So this is going to be, maybe it's some horror music if we're starting quiet and then swelling into something huge, or it's action music probably. So.
Yeah, and if it's any, kind of consolation for what we're going to hear in a little bit, like, that is loud. It's very loud.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
I was just thinking that. I don't know if this is like what corresponds with what Trevorrow shared, but it's definitely the same kind of music. So
yeah. So then we got some 2/8, 6/8.
2/8 and 6/8.
It said this is the last day of scoring.
Oh, cool. No, I was just gonna say, so the 2/8 and the 6/8 are next to each other like that, probably so that so that it's exact and the music fits exactly with whatever is going on screen. And if if the timing of the music needed to shift really quickly there, and so that's why that is like that right there. And it's big, just for people who may not know, it's big so that it's easier for the conductor to read and it's easy for the musicians to read. So
yeah, and it does say, I think it says big in bold down there. A little blurry, but
I can't tell what that first word is, but it says something big and bold.
Yeah,
so
I was wondering
maybe
that
it
too.
Says old big and bold. I don't know. Dinosaurs are old, but
it's possible.
Yeah,
can't really tell what else is going on here, but
on the right side of that big 6/8, there's Fs going all the way down the score, which means forte, which is loud.
So this was the last day of scoring for Jurassic World Dominion. It's been an incredible 10 days with the orchestra and crew at Abbey Road. Thanks for making an incredibly difficult process seem effortless. Big kudos to my team and engineers Peter Cobbin and Christy Whaley. So that's awesome. Last day. So 10 days, like we had mentioned before. I believe, I think I said Christy. My bad. It was Kirsty. Can't read. The next one I have from Cliff Masterson. Is that he's a composer, arranger, conductor, producer from London. So he's like, I'm not sure what was in those cupcakes. Actually, I guess I went out of order here. Where is the cupcakes? Here's some cupcakes. Socially distanced cupcakes. Thanks to Michael Giacchino. So you get some dinosaur napkins. That's about it. There's nothing much going on here. But he got cupcakes, and then you don't know what's in those cupcakes. But there was definitely something a little strange going on in Studio One today at Abbey Road. Cellists, major scales. Okay, so this is a fun look. I like that this literally just arrived from Amazon. The guy opened the box and then passed out the out all these hilarious masks. These are too funny. I like it. I like the fun. I like that they're having some fun in the studio.
Yeah, and a cool thing about recording during the pandemic is, in a normal recording session setting, each instrumentalist wouldn't be quite that far apart, and so it gives the music a cool sound. Sort of, it makes it sound a little bit bigger to me, just stuff that I've heard. So
well, that's it. Yeah, that's interesting. I know we talked about if they did install precautions, it could potentially affect the sound, but I didn't think about spacing and how that might affect it actually too. That's pretty interesting, because
and Giacchino talked about how instead of maybe being in one room at Abbey Road, they were in two separate rooms to be able to social distance, and so they were able to get probably the same amount of musicians that they would normally have instead of cutting it down or something. But so
that brings us to some really interesting stuff. And that is finally some music. And Michael Giacchino says, well, the Jurassic World Dominion recording is done. Now it's time for the mix. I'll share something new with you soon. Wait, soon? He's literally sharing it right now as he tweets this. What does he mean? So I just want to play this real quick, and hopefully this doesn't affect this too much, but we'll take a listen. We got the T-Rex.
Yeah, T-Rex.
Tiki T-Rex. Some Lost, Dharma Initiative.
Yeah.
There we go.
Nice.
So
on that right score page, you can sort of.
Oh boy.
There's three lines of music there that stick out from the others. It's because there's more notes.
Mm-hmm.
If you can see what I mean. So like about midway through the page, there's a line with lots of notes, and then a little bit down from that, there's a line with sort of the same thing, and then one more line that's sort of the same thing. That's probably the harp and the piano and maybe a string instrument doing the.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. That's got to be that part, because it's a iconic moment from like the Jurassic World score that lead into this portion of the Jurassic World score, because this is it's fairly similar. I mean, it's it's the same kind of theme, just carried over. It ends a little bit differently in this case, but it really sounds like, I think, Nine to Survival Job from the original Jurassic World kind of ends that a very similar way.
At the beginning of this clip, there's a little carryover from whatever the musical section was before, whatever was happening, and then you go into the Jurassic World theme. But this, I've thought that sort of since he shared this, like this feels like the word I would use is closure. Like that's what this music feels like, because it's not the entire Jurassic World theme. It's just sort of the first half of it, and then it's just and it ends, and it feels like a fade out. It feels like a fade to black to me. Maybe like
does.
we're off into the. I thought of the ending of Jurassic Park, which is helicopter flying off into the sunset. Like this is walking off into the sunset, maybe, or something. So
yeah,
I'll say that right now. We'll go back and listen to this in a year and see. But this feels like the end. This feels like it definitely could be the end of the movie for me.
Yeah, and just think about that for a moment, because I had that same thought. I know we talked about this a little bit online previously, but it feels like the end, and I'm thinking about that as the end of the saga, I guess you could say, because we've heard conversations. Yeah, we've heard conversations about like how this is, it's the end, but also the start of something new in a way. But I don't know, it could be the end of a lot of these characters and stuff like that. So who knows? In my mind, I'm like, is this the last notes of the Jurassic Park, Jurassic World saga, and then we move on to something else? Maybe where dinosaurs are just free and people have to deal with that, and it's other characters. I don't know, but that sticks with me, and it makes me think.
It feels, another word I want to use this word carefully, but it feels a little bit somber to me.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, like it feels a little bit bittersweet. Like we have said, I mean, like you said, it's the end of the saga, but it feels a little bit like we have said goodbye to something.
Mm-hmm.
And so what that is, I don't know, but yeah.
I'm getting like chills just thinking about it.
Same here. So yeah.
Just like a little teary-eyed thinking about saying goodbye to whatever. I don't even know what it is, but I'm saying goodbye and it's making me sad. But like, I think you're right. And I was trying to put my finger on it too, because it doesn't sound like there's a ton of resolution here to me. It's not like it ends in like a positive way. It just kind of sounds like it's just like, that's it. There you go. There it is.
It's saying goodbye to something, but it's also sort of open-ended, like open to you know, what is likely an open world, you know.
Yeah.
Who knows what happens next?
Yeah. And kind of what I was talking about earlier with the Tiki Rex, which we've seen multiple times now, and it's in this video, it's focused on. It just makes me wonder, is this, like, in my mind, I'm thinking about the end of the movie, and I'm thinking, is this a moment like the end of The Lost World, but in nature, where, you know, in in America somewhere, where we're getting a final shot of a T-Rex or something like that, just
Or,
being natural,
you
and
know, fade out on, you know, just a gigantic landscape of dinosaurs
everywhere.
living
Yeah.
together. Yeah.
So far, we've gotten a track that is very Jurassic World centric. This next track, I feel like, is fairly Fallen Kingdom, like in its vibes. You know, Fallen Kingdom was straight horror and just loud and bombastic a lot of the time. And I think this next thing that was shared from Colin Trevorrow over on Instagram was, it feels in line with this. But so I kind of do want to hear what is next, what you're talking about. So this is wild. This is from Instagram, and this is Colin Trevorrow trying out Michael Giacchino's score for Jurassic World Dominion, and he says it works. And he's playing Souls 3 or something, Dark Souls. See, I don't know what this game is. Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, it's Dark Souls 3, I think. Yeah.
Looks like a fun game. And it looks like a scary game, right? I'm assuming. So let's kind of hear how this track works. It works. It works. Oh. Look.
Ooh, that's good.
It's
so good.
It takes, so I just said, you know, it kind of resembles Fallen Kingdom, but like it takes what you heard in Fallen Kingdom and takes it to like level 100 and just like, you know, through the roof in a way. It's just straight terror. My God.
So at the beginning there, it's sort of just like some percussion and strings and the harp glistening, like going up straight up the scale, like whoop, like, but then it, like, when I was listening to this, it blew me away, like, because it kept building, like, kept adding some, like, more percussion comes in, and then low brass comes in, like, but then, like, it sounds like, to me, like, French horns and perhaps some trombones come in and do some rips, which is what that, which is what that is, and, like, that's just... Like, this is so good. This moment, whatever it is like, it's gonna be like terrifying, whatever it is. And just because it's so like out, it feels like maybe it's like, you know, gigantic dinosaur shows up and it's terrifying, and maybe it's taking steps or something, and we're crescendoing in this moment, or it's, you know, it's a terrifying death scene or something like that, like that is just I mean, it feels that the music there is probably not the whole thing, it's probably longer than that, and so maybe it's like a death scene that is drawn out or something, like, because it feels like it's just like this horrifying thing that probably the characters are having to watch or that they're seeing. But it reminds me a lot of the smallest of dinosaurs. It's like the Compies or the Velociraptors. Like, that's the kind of vibe that I'm getting from it, you know, because when you think about the Compies, there's, you know, kind of very similar like rips and stuff like that, like you were mentioning, but with like piccolos and things like that, I think, right? So just the flutes or whatever, it's just so piercing in that sense, but also it does have that heft to it. So I don't think you're wrong, but it's got a lot of heft to it. I think it's probably more likely like a horrifying moment than a big dinosaur, probably. It's just, I think there are a lot of things that I could say here, but like, I think maybe like like I was saying, the scores have built to this film, and they're bigger now, and this feels just huge and epic. Just this tiny moment just feels massive. And so like the two other like Jurassic score moments come to mind, and the first one is what you were saying, which is the compy death in the Lost World, because there's all the high wind instruments, piccolo, flute, everything else, they're just like flailing all over the place.
Yeah.
And to me that's always sort of personified the compies, because they're like squeaking and chirping and all over the place, and the music is sort of copying them, but it's terrifying. But the other moment that comes to mind is when Owen and the other park employees sort of look up at the Indominus Rex when it's about to like chase them out of the paddock.
Okay.
Because that moment is it sort of resembles this, as far as like big, like, but also it has like the harp glistening up, like, like, so it reminds me of that too.
Yeah. I think I could hear that as well. I actually would love.
But
go ahead.
Like, sorry, no, like in the Indominus moment that I was just talking about, there's not this, which is like the like that's not really in the Indominus moment. So like, I mean, I think that lends itself to this more being like a horrifying thing that people are witnessing. But that percussion is really subtle. Like, you don't, at least me, like, I don't notice it every time, but like it's there. It's like
you know, it has,
it's good.
It has like volume or room to it in a way, like where it feels like not, because the Lost World is very heavy with the percussion and stuff like that, like where it feels like it's jungle vibe and stuff like that. I wouldn't say it's exactly that. Here it is again. Like, there is a lot of reverb to it in the back. You can kind of hear it, like, has space and volume, but it's so subtle. But so it kind of makes me think of a jungle atmosphere in a way, because that's like the main time that was ever been used is in this wild, and we, one of the things I feel like everybody kind of wants to hear is more of the Lost World return in a way. So that makes me happy to hear like that sort of percussion continuing on here.
Yeah. I mean, I've speculated a lot, so I'm going to cover my speculation basis, but like you were talking about the image that was teased, and with the engine cart and the look like a laboratory or whatever it was. And like, maybe that's in the past. It seemed like it was like an old place. And so, like, if the reason I'm gonna speculate to what I'm gonna say is because this music reminds me of a little bit of the opening music in Fallen Kingdom, when it's really like bang, bang, bang. It's really sort of jarring. And so, the last speculation I'll make is maybe this music is over some sort of terrifying opening to the film, and maybe it has to do with a flashback that is where that image was on Sorna or something, like, and it's this wild, terrifying thing. But
yeah,
I don't know.
That I think you're onto something. I think with our brains combining and just like hashing this out, I think we've really narrowed it down and gotten to it. That was pretty spot on. I think I'm gonna say that's spot on, because we've wondered and obviously you see that image and it is from the past. I mean, there is no denying that, I don't think, at this point. So I feel like flashbacks are there for certain. So finally we got this thing rolling again. Dinosaur. Yeah, man. It's back.
now that we've got to start, let's do it regularly.